Hi everybody, welcome to the channel. It's a watercolor today. It's all about a river scene, so let's dive straight in. Let's see what happens. Go. Hi everybody and welcome back. As I said at the start, it is a watercolor. It's all about a river scene. It's the river Rother that runs in Sussex near to Rye, and where I was standing at Iden Lock looking up along the river towards that Rye direction. And I wanted to show you a full-length version this time, not just a time lapse. So I wanted to sort of show you all the brush marks, all the mixes in this video. So I hope you do enjoy it, and I hope you get something from it to move on with. And I do hope that if you do enjoy my videos that you can become a subscriber. It really is important to me. It does tell YouTube that the channel is worth supporting, and I really do appreciate that if you do that and press that bell icon and thumbs up and all those things. And above all, if you want to comment on the video and make any suggestions or indeed have questions to ask, I read them all. I love them. I love getting involved with that. So please interact with me and add comments. That's always welcome. And don't forget, there is also my Patreon. I have that ready for you. It's on, all you got to do is pop over there. All the descriptions are underneath this and every other video that you watch. All you've got to do is take a look. If you like one of the tiers, it doesn't cost you very much to get involved. It's only about $5 or $10 a month, which is not a great deal. It's a couple of cups of coffee at most. But for it, you get so much more for your money, so much more film footage, full-length videos, tips, how-tos, and you also have a Facebook Patreon community which is building. It's a lovely family, a lovely group of artists that are all patrons. They all interact with each other, and it's a lot of fun. So maybe you want to take a pop over there, have a look at that, and I'd really warmly welcome you on board as a patron. With that all said and done, let's dive straight in. Let's see how this river scene turns out in watercolor. Catch you all soon. All the best. Take care. Stay safe. Bye bye. Hi everybody and welcome back, and I'm going to be doing a little watercolor. Well, it's not so little, but it is on 300-pound Arches rough paper, and I want to put in a very high sky, and this is just going to go as a suggestion all the way through there like so. Now I'm using a 4 or 6B lead in here. I'm not too sure. I think it's actually a 4B, and there's a lot of sort of height on some of this structure here, and it's not much of a big drawing at all. What I do want to do is suggest the line of the river that's coming almost through here. So you've got the bank there disappearing into the distance, and a little bit of height here in some of the field and the foliage and the trees and what's ever going on through there. And then we have the bank here, which is really quite high in terms of some of the shrubs. And then you've got the bank that comes down this way and just starts to curve away from me at this point, somewhere around like that. All of this area here is all about water. It's all about the fluidity and the movement of the water, and that's what I'm going to try and encapsulate or capture here today. And what I want to do very quickly is just put in a small boat that's sitting moored on the side. So we've got the little front end that comes up like so, and just a little bit of the bow that's into the water there. You can't see too much of the back, it's almost on us in that form, but there is a little bit of side canopy like so. It's just giving that a little bit of shape. So we've got our boat like that, and of course we're going to have a bit of reflection, so I better remember to put that in. I'm just going to suggest it, no more no less than that. Back here we've got one or two other little white boats, but they are so small we really can't see too much of them, but I do want to suggest something, so I'm going to leave something there when I come through with my wash. Okay, so that is, in a nutshell, that's my drawing. Okay, I will just take some time just to clean up the palette from the other day. to make my wash, I'm going to make a larger brush, and this is quite a large brush. This is one of the new red dot brushes from Rosemary and Co, and I'm going to make quite a big mix down here of essentially it's going to be a cobalt blue. Let's put some of that into there, make quite a nice mix of that. I want it to be quite powerful, so a lot of pigment, quite a bit of water, but quite a bit of pigment too. And that's going to be the main part of our sky. So let's just crack on with that. Nice big marks across here, big statement of blue, and that's going to come down, and I'm going to leave quite a bit of white as I do that. I'm going to leave that across there, let some of that skate across the area, and that I'm going to put a little bit of phthalo blue into my cobalt just to bring that a little fresher as that comes through here now. Change that ever so slightly and bring that down. Now I'm going to come along and just wash through some of that there, not too much, just I don't want to overpower what will be my lovely little white clouds that are running through this area here. To some of them I will put in a little bit of a move that blue out in places. It's sort of nice flush to it, but I want to drop a little bit more colour, a bit more blue, a bit more cobalt, maybe a touch more of the cerulean or phthalo blue, something like that into there. Let that come down and let it descend upon some of these lighter blue areas, and let that just do what it wants to do while we've still got some paint that's wet. I'm going to put in a little more phthalo blue over this side, and I'm going to bring that down, and that's going to sort of literally just fade out to nothing, I think. Let that come down into our skies and let that just have some way with some of this white paper, but not too much. I want a little bit of that to show up. Get rid of those marks on my water there. I'm going to leave that to do that and do its own thing there. I'm going to come back in with this in a moment. In the short term, what I want to do is I'm going to leave some of that colour there, but I want to come in with a dirty grey. So I'm going to use some phthalo, and I'm going to come into that with a little bit of the magenta colours, like so, a little bit of grey. I'm going to add just a touch of yellow into that, just to really make that quite a dull grey. And I'm going to run that now all the way through the base of this cloud form. So we've got the clouds at the bottom. There's a much paler colour through here. I don't mind if it goes through all that foliage, but what I do want to be careful of is my boat. So I've got to be careful of that. So I'm going to come through, let that very, very much softer up in there. And I'm going to drop a little bit of Ultramarine Blue into that. Just wet that up a little bit. Just going to drop under that cloud just a little drop of ultramarine running through there, straight into the top. It will find its own way, don't worry. It will do what it wants to do. And I'm going to come bring that all the way down around my boats, take that down through there. It doesn't matter if it goes further, I just don't want anything to sort of touch that lovely white paper around the boat. I need to preserve that if I can. This is all going to be much darker, and I'm going to put a little bit around there, work that tip of that brush around those dark elements, and that's really my horizon line sorted out. Now that does go off in that fashion. I'm quite happy with that, but I'm going to make some more grey. So I'm going to come in with some ultramarine this time, and a little bit of magenta, making that perfect purple. But I'm going to tap in a little bit of maybe a bit more yellow into that. That's too yellowish, so I need to come back in and put some cobalt into it this time. Take that down to that lovely dirty old grey colour, and I'm going to come in here now, and I'm going to suggest this grey that is around these clouds. Now there is a beautiful corona around these clouds, so it's not all of it that's grey. It's some of the bottom is left and some of the top has got some bright marks into it too. So we're going to have this pretty much hard edge through here onto the base of these clouds. I'm going to just run the brush through there just ever so slightly, just to loosen up that area through there. Replenish, dampen the brush off again, just taking some of that off. Then I'm going to come back in and just drop some grey colours into some of this all the way through to there. And it does build in one or two places above and into the blue, so we can actually do that in a minute, but let's just drop some colour. Let's just get this area finished off before we lose it. Just taking it off through the side there like that. I want to come in with a bit more violet and a little bit more of the blue, lots more of the blue, and a little touch of that yellow again. See where that is. I think we need to come in with some more blues just to corrupt that, and a bit more of the yellow just to take it down. And I think that's not bad. I'm just going to come in and test that. Drop some of that in one or two places like so. It's quite a strong, it's actually more blue than I've got it. I'm going to actually come in with a bit more of that blue into some of that too. That makes a lot of sense. Like so. And these are a streak of lovely clouds that are just running through the base of the horizon there. Threatening rain. Now I've got to say, this was this painting, or this sequence of photographs that I've got of this time were taken on a day that my friends and I were out plein airing at this location. This is the River Rother just outside of Rye at a place called Iden Lock, and it is a stunning area to be. And we did several paintings there during the course of the afternoon, it's got to be said. And we went off to lunch and we came back again to resume what we'd started, and it was a tremendous day's painting, gotta say. But the clouds brood. I've done several paintings of the stunning clouds as they are really brewing. I'm going to leave that now. I think that's more than enough, and I think the job is done. I'm happy with that. I'm going to let that dry off, and I'm going to come on down now with some of our beautiful wet forms through here. Then the last thing will be the top part of all of these hedgerows and such. So I'm going to wet the paper quite a bit. I'm going to preserve the area around my boats, so I want that dry underneath there. Take this all the way down, all the way through this side too. And where was I? Yes, I was at Iden Lock with my friends. We just had lunch, and these clouds were just an indication of what was to come. And my lord, did that rain come. It built into the most enormous thunderhead cloud, and we had such a wonderful time trying to photograph it and paint around it. And then we had to run for cover because the heavens opened, the storm came, and yeah, it left us in no uncertain terms that we were no longer welcome to paint there because it was just full on. Alright, so that's nice and wet. Now I'm going to come into some of these wonderful colours, and I'm going to start off with some very pale blues way up into the top here. Lots of water, very little pigment. Just going to suggest all that there coming down. I'll put a little touch of yellow, not that much, just a little touch of it, just a little hint into some of this, and let that flow down like so. And then as that comes down, I'm going to let it spread out onto the shore. Now a lot of this shore is really going to start to disappear at some point, and I know the yellow is not in the cloud form there, but I just wanted to warm this up. And if you feel that that's too much, there really isn't anything stopping you. You can just go back in and take that back out a little bit and just make it just the sense of yellow, but nothing more. But here we can start having some real fun. We've got all this lovely light in here from the clouds. We can put some lovely blues in through here, beautiful swathe of blue through here, and we get the sense of this changing light on the river as we take this down, and just letting some of these colours blend and flow and move together in this wet paper. Lots of swirly bits, lots of action in the water, nice blues through here. I'm going to come in this side with a little bit of phthalo that we had in the sky up here, so let's just drop some of that into there, like so. Get rid of that dirty part, bring that into play like that. And while I've got this quite damp, not quite yet, we're a little bit premature for that, let's just come in with some more blues through here. There's quite a bit of a sort of a cobalt blue in there, and a lot of that violet in there, a bit of pink it runs into. Let's just come in here now. Let's put a nice deep swathe of this colour coming through the water like so. We get that nice sense of the power and the movement in the water, I hope, by the end of this. That's the plan. And the water gets a little bit grey down here. Going to introduce a little bit of orange, believe it or not, into here. Now, it doesn't look great right now, but I hope by the time we get to the end, that will be fine. Just going to take that all the way through there like so, and let that just come down into the bottom here, and using quick marks, quick strokes with the brush. Don't want to leave too much in the way of white paper at this point. I really want to play around with the idea of these lovely blues and streaking down into the bottom part of this water like so. And I've deliberately left a little bit of dry paper over here because I want to suggest that there is a lot of light forming on the water at this point, and quite little dark little eddies of power as this, because over this side there is a bridge that continues on the river Rother up past. I don't actually know where that leads out to. I've never followed the river that way, but it has got a lot of power as the two areas of the water move together. And of course we have got the Iden Lock that is directly behind where I'm standing to take this photograph, and so that's where you get the emergence of these two rivers. The Royal Military Canal, which is coming through the lock, which is the man-made defence by Wellington for the Napoleonic Wars. It stretches from Iden Lock here all the way through the Romney Marshes and comes out to it goes past my home village of Dymchurch, of course, and then on from there it goes to Hythe, and out falls the sea at a place called Seabrook. And so that is a very extensive, hand built by Wellington's army back in the 1800s to keep any potential threat of Napoleon from our shores. And it still exists, it's still maintained, it's a wonderful river, and lots of people enjoy it annually for fishing, for boating, for walks, nature, all sorts of things. It is a wonderful system, a lovely river. Anyway, this is where the point of where it enters the main river Rother, and the river Rother goes up this way to a couple more locks that are sea locks, and they are into the main sea system, and therefore finally the harbour. I'm trying to suggest this lovely darkness through here of all these lovely different colours and the little blues, and just dropping in while this paint is still wet. It allows me to, as it starts to dry, to create more natural forms and more suggestions of water flowing. Now what I do want to do, as it starts to dry up a little bit, and not quite there yet I don't think, is to introduce some of the darks from the riverbank and some of the sort of flashes of dark bank colour. I'm going to introduce a bit more blue in here just quickly. Let's drop that in place because we've got a big bush there that'll go on later. That's not a problem. I want to suggest some of these ripples that are going through into the other area, and as this dries up it will create lovely little sense of ripples and the power, as I say, of the movement of this water. And drag a little bit of blue through one or two of these places coming across the river like so, and it looks like it's sort of, again, it's creating those eddies and forms further along. And I think we're pretty much there on that. I'm just wondering whether to put some deeper colour over to one side. I think I will. I'm going to bring some Cobalt Blue and some Ultramarine together. I'm going to add a little bit of that magenta colour into it there. That's quite a violet colour. Do I want to change that? Maybe I'll put a little bit of vermilion into that, make it a dirtier purple. Just going to drop that in here now. Just over to one side. It looks like a nice sense of real heavy cloud at this point, and it reinforces some of these other pretty blues that are working through here. Now this brown, this colour through here, has lost a little bit as it's starting to dry. So I'm going to come back in, a little bit of red this time, a little bit of the blue, make it a dirty grungy red colour. Going to drop some more of that colour in. I hope it's not too much. I'm sure it probably isn't. I just wanted a sense of that lovely warmth entering some of these blues like so. So just get a sense of the two areas merging into the bottom of the picture and away over to here like so. Let's just bring some of that through and to work that out like that. Okay, now we've got this strong blue colour that's dried up. I'm going to come over it gently with some of these other colours. And then if I want to come back in with some of that blue, I can do so, just dropping it in just into place like so, and that will give me that finish that I wanted just there. Okay, and it's all little bits, little trying to keep a hold of everything. It's like juggling plates a little bit, but it's all worth it if you can get it right in the end. Just a little bit more of that dark, just to come through here and to play around with some of these oranges, and you can see that the blue is sort of entering the orange and vice versa. They will pretty much merge out and you won't see too much of it, but it really just gives that little sense of change. I like that. I need to let that settle down, and what I will do is I will come back in now very quickly, mixing up some of this dark that I have from before. It's quite a lovely dark, looking at some of my flushes of colour. So what I'm going to do is, there is one big bush, so I'm going to literally put some of that in there and let that flow. I'm going to put another lot in here, and there is the riverbank. Let's put that in like so, and then we've got a big tree behind there, so let that come in and flow. Not too far. I'm going to let it flow so far, and then I'm going to sort of stop it in its tracks. I'm going to come in here. This is going to be another part. And we've got a lot of dark to come in behind this boat, so I'm going to cut in around the boat again, not losing out on my reflection. I'm going to put that in there like so. I'm going to look to the other side of the boat and run this up from that way like so. Up there, let it take into the water, let it start to blend, leaving out my little vessels that are up there too, and taking that all the way through to there. Now that area probably has dried, and if anything it's a problem. It's not really, because we can just soften that edge and let that come into the top of the river as it turns away, and we can build this area quite nicely. It was the area that we first did. I could have kept it moist, but I think we can make that work. Now I'm going to mix some more darks. I'm going to come in with some indigo blue this time, and I'm going to come in with some sienna just to make that no, that's not sienna, that's actually Indian red, and all the better for it. It works quite nice. Here's a chalky dark dusky grey, and I just want to put that in there and let that flow into some of that colour that we've just been putting in this area here. Let that come down and down and down. Going to drop some into here like so. There's a bit of dirt got into that piece of pigment there. Try and get that out before we have a problem. Another bit there. So I'm going to carry on with that now and just drop some pigment into there and bring some more. I've lost a lot of it, so I'm going to remix quickly. Indigo blue and a little bit of this Venetian red into there. Just bring some into there. When it warmed up, there's quite a bit of warmth in there. I'm going to bring a little bit of juicy translucent orange into that mix too. And you can see now how I want that to spread. Now I don't want that spreading everywhere, so I'm going to halt it around there and let it go only so far. I'm going to let that drop in, let the riverbank do its own thing down through here. A lot of big tree stuff coming down here, and just letting the water spread and flow very, very naturally, almost like free form. Don't worry too much about what's going on here. We have got a big part and the reflection of this tree. So I love the way that that's spread, and it's creating its own sets of branches and letting your brain, as it were, fill in the dots and fill in all that information. Now I can come up here and I can put in part of the riverbank as that's coming through here, like so. Build that area up. It's quite dark, quite in a sort of set of beautiful, what am I trying to think of? Silhouette. That's what I was trying to say. Dark silhouettes. I'm going to bring that through there. Now this is starting to creep a little farther. So I can just check it a little bit. Just gently stop that from running out too far. Like so. I quite like the way that one's gone. This one's done a bit, but we do need to do more. So I'm going to come in and make some remix, some orange and some indigo, and just drop that in along this riverbank too, and let that do its thing. Take that dark all the way up there now as to the top of the riverbank itself as it goes through past the boat. Just drop that in there, and I'm looking at everything here, trying to keep an eye on it all before I come back down there. There's our boat. Take that along there to the next boats. They too are sort of engulfed in the darkness of the riverbank and all the trees and foliage up through there like that. And let's drop some more orange into that to warm up this area through here on the riverbank. That's not moving as far and fast as it could have done. I could do some more with that, and I might just literally drop in some water in here just to allow this area to start to flow once more, especially through there along that back area as it goes off up there. So I'm going to let that flow. I quite like this. I think that's gone a little bit too far there, so I might just eat back into this area here and take some of that back out. Very, very gently touch that. And if you want some of the blue back in, then just quickly tap in just a little bit of water, a little bit of blue in there, and let that fill out and do what it wants to do in that area so you don't lose it. There's a hair got in there yet again, and this is the area you've got to be careful of here. This is where I'm going to take out some of those lovely bits of blue and just drag them across so that they don't become issues, like so. Oh, I didn't mean that to happen. That could cause me a problem. I hate that. It's the only trouble when working on such an angle, that you do tend to have little accidents with water. So I'm going to come across here now, and I'm just going to gently tease into some of this. Take that all the way through there like so. Come across here, clean the brush, fresh bit of paper. Always try when you've got this, because you've got masking tape on, water can creep back that way. You really don't want that to happen. So I'm just going to gently tease back some of these marks here into the edges of the water, and so that I don't end up getting awful cauliflower marks that are unsightly. They're not what I wanted. So we've got our dark, and we've got branches, and we've got the riverbank. Quite like the way that's gone now. That was a problem, and again, as I said, it's from a splosh of water, and it's disturbed the paint pigment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, and I'm going to use a bit of indigo this time, a little bit of that magenta colour, a little bit more blue, and see if I can't create more form in here, just to lose that if it's possible. And a little bit of water, just to, you can see I've done it in a couple of places, and this could be the ruin of the painting, it could be the saving of the painting. And just trying to dry brush that off, and I will come back in very, very quickly, I think, with some means of drying this so that I don't spoil everything that I've done so far. I'm going to take that all the way off, like so. bring it all the way down through here, and I'm going to literally just tap off some of the edge so that it just blends without spreading too much. It's never the best. This really isn't the best thing to be doing, but it was my stupidity that created the problem in the first place. Not my stupidity, but my lack of care, should I say, by dropping some paint into an area that I really didn't want it. I'm going to try and bring that through and lift some pigment through this area here. So I'm going to take that dark in, but then let it become light against the dark there and across there. And you start to see some changes in that. And that's why I left that there, so it could carry on. We can just take that through and break that out through there like so. Making a little point out of my brush. And hopefully that works. Right, I do need though to come back in and carry on with this, because this has been neglected because of the problem that I had. So I'm just going to come in here now, drop some more pigments in here and reactivate this a little bit again. And you can see that because it's starting to dry up, it didn't like having more water added. And hopefully that will not be too much of a problem. I'm going to take that through. It wants to be made darker, and while I've got this now, I can start putting in some of the top forms that are poking their little heads above the bank, little posts, and that really just bring that to a nice finish. I know my drawing is actually higher on the bank, and I could actually bring that up to meet it quite happily. I did want to get the water in here, but I've got to make a lot more quick, fast, reactive decisions, because I need this now to be working in such a way that we get some lovely drips down into this area here. I'm just going to drop some of these forms in so that they start to spread, and they're nice tree forms and bushes and shrubs that are just sending out little lovely little bits of reflection into the water like so. That's what I want. I'm going to bring some of that down here too. Nice dark through here. Take that dark up the back there. Let's bring that up a little bit. That's what I was going to do as well. Just very quickly, just take that through. Lots of forms, trees, shrubs, bushes along the top of this canal. Take that all the way through there. Let that come down to the top of the boat in a nice dark form. Run that all the way through this way too, around these other boats, and we've got a nice big bush there. Take a lot of moisture out and just scratch around with almost a dry brush to give a sense of the edges of those bushes. There's a lot of sort of fragmented scrubby bushes going through up here, which we can just put in like so. And then we can come back in and just drop in more pigment underneath that, just to reinforce those darks back in into place, down through that boat, along down through there, and whatever we've got going on up here we can just put that in too. Let's come in with a little bit more dark color, and let's just bring in a few reflective sources from bushes. And if I just bring one or two of those down a little bit, they may disguise my little dark mark there. Again, it's just a case of being a little bit more careful. You tend to work, especially filming, you're working quite fast and you're trying to get everything appearing right, and then you go and do something a little bit crazy like that and drop some colour off where you don't really want it. Now what I'm going to try and do is use the point of this just to drag a little bit of light through there, and it's going to come out this way. Just a suggestion of a ripple, light ripple through there like so. Take that across, and one or two up through here. You can just suggest that water is moving. I think we just got away with that somewhere. Very lucky that we have, and this has not ended up too much of a disaster either. I quite like the way that this has gone in here, but I do want to make the bottom of the bank in one or two places a little darker. So let's just bring the bottom here and just take that as though there is a difference between the bank there and the reflected areas in the water. So a bit heavier there, and let that just create its own sort of riverbank similar to that part there. I'm going to let that alone now and be thankful. I'm just going to bring a little bit of dark up in here. I think there's a nice warm and dark sort of trees and bushes here, and another one which I'm going to bring a little bit heavier, a bit bigger there. It gives a bit of height to that area, which is just nice. And just one or two little taps of posts and stuff along the riverbank like so, just to add some interest, and something there like that. There we go. That's that area done. And let's just come back and replace some of this, or add more to this in here. Same two colours, we're going to stick with the same two colours. Going to come across here and just bring that across the top there. This is the top of my field, and we've got a great big tree in here which I'm going to just fairly quickly dry brush in some of the areas of the tree, and it's I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, we're going to just bring that in. Quite heavy. There's not a lot of trunk to see. It's pretty much all growth and winter look to it, but as I say, I don't know what the tree is. Just going to bring it in, just leave enough poking through to suggest sky holes and giving it some extra dense parts down here, a little heavier down through here. I want to bring in some orange into that too, some darks and some orange, maybe some pure indigo into the center. Just drop that in, gives a little bit of thickness to that area there. Let that come down into the ground, and we have our large tree. Now it does come down into a bit of a well, and I can see that through there is a lovely paler green and duskier green. Now to that I'm going to use a bit of turquoise, a little bit of yellow ochre, and I'm just going to run that through there. Just let that come down and let it sort of take out that piece of dark paint. That will settle down and become much lighter, and whilst that is wet, I'm going to come in with some more of it, but some more indigo, some more orange. Just going to run that down now into the riverbank. A lot darker than that, much darker than that. More of the colour again, and we start to suggest our riverbank. So we've got the suggested field going along down into this tree here, like so. We're going to build on our little tree there, and there is a flush of reeds, quite orangey coloured, and let's going to put some orange in it, will be good. Let's just bring that little flush of orange there into our reed bed, and similarly into the reflection, which will come down into here. We've lost a lot of that reflection from before. We are going to rebuild it. So I'm going to come in here now, just drop some colour into this area once again. Now I'm going to play with it, and I'm going to tease it, but I'm going to watch it carefully. I don't want to have a problem. So I don't want water running. I just want it to do so much work, and then I want it to just stop. It wants to be quite rich, quite dark. So I'm going to be dropping pigment in as I go. I'm also trying to look to this area too, and just work in sort of a couple of posts there, and a couple of light parts here, little tree bits, shrubs coming down this part here. This part of our bank, and we've got a big, now that tree is not really represented by that big shadow reflection, so I'm going to use that it spread a little more. So I think I'm going to do two things. I'm going to change the shape of this just a little bit in here, take that through to the bank like so, and at the same time I'm actually going to raise and increase the size of this tree to make it sort of more believable to the size of this down here. I think we can get away with it because of that, so I'm going to drop that in there like so. Just play around with a few simple shapes of eddies like so. Turn that back a little bit, and coming back to this, I haven't forgotten it. As I said, I need to keep an eye on it, and just going to drop in a little bit of colour just up in here and start to build this big bushy tree now. So I'm going to take it out this way a little bit, and it's going to sort of creep out across the river a little bit. I'm going to put a little bit more dark into some of that line up through the back there. It's just lost a little bit as it's been drying. A couple of little forms that suggest it is riverbank, and continuing on. Lose that into that, that's fine. Come back to this, and we've got to build height to it, but it does come across this, and you can't quite see where one bit starts and the other bit stops. So I'm going to just suggest here just a couple of dry brush marks up into that area there. I could have done this with another brush, but I'm trying to do the whole thing in quite a large brush just to show that it can be done. And bring it up into there a little bit. Trying to keep it dark, keep it rich, not too much water for that if you want to do that, just keeping it really heavy pigment, and that will increase the density, and you don't want it drying too light. I've got to come back into this one at the same time. I've also got to come into this, which is starting to dry up, and I'm just going to let that now feather out into the water and just dissipate into its power, and let that just settle down now. I think it's gone as good as I'm going to get it. Same with this, we're going to bring that down a little bit further, let that come across into one or two of these other forms and shapes like so, and it does break up into little eddies, little lines, but we will just leave it at that. We don't need to do that. Now I could have sort of changed, not let that bleed so far. It did. If anything, I don't mind it. It could have been avoided. I don't think it's the end of the world, to be quite honest. I quite like what it's done, but at the end of the day, it is a lovely little practice piece to have a play with. Take that off, and I'm going to take that all the way down through to there now, and lose that. Soften that into there. Yeah, everything can be changed, everything can be done a little better in hindsight, but at the end of the day, we have got a pretty little river scene, and I quite like the way it's gone. Now I'm just going to finish off this tree in here and build it up because I need that for the size. I'm going to take it out this way into the sky and just dry brush some of these edges out. That's the trouble with dry brush, you start to lose the strength of the pigment, so better off maybe on this occasion just coming back in with a smaller brush or a pointy brush, and for that I can use a lovely synthetic sword liner, which will, when it's sort of wet, it creates these lovely little pointy edges which will give me that sharp edge, but it also gives me a dark sharp without sort of messing up the paint, like so. A bit more pigment, a bit more water, get the ratio about right, and just drop back in, and there we are. We can start playing around with this. We can start giving those forms, those twigs, a little bit more finality as the type of bush that it is, and it's sort of leaning, coming over this way quite a bit too. We can bring that down into the ground. Can take it up this way. We've lost a lot of the smaller sky holes at the bottom, not a problem. I'm just going to bring some of this up and suggest that we've got a height to this into the sky now, and make some of those sky holes more evident from this point of view. And I can take it quite a way out this way too, which will then help with the look of the reflection. Now I'm going to put in quite a bit of warmth into the centre. Nice drop of red and orange coming into that green as well, just to warm that area up into there. A couple of little posts in there. Top end of that field. And I can use the same brush, or I can come back to this one. And I can just put in one or two of the little areas up in here that are evident on the top of this field too. Break up the background. Nice little pole or something there, posts, whatever it might be, it doesn't matter too much. So we've got a lovely sense of the warm, the light, the darks working away in there, using a lot of indigo and a lot of other colours here. And I'm going to come back in and I'm going to use the same sword liner just to give this a little bit more detail into this bush here, this great big old tree that's on the side of the river. Actually, in all honesty, the water goes up through there, and it sort of is isolated by the water, this little shrub. The water runs, or the river runs each side of it. So it's quite interesting when you're there to see that. Not as fine as the actual photograph is, but we still get the idea of the aim of this lovely shrubby tree thing. Getting a little bit fiddly now, so I didn't really want to start doing it. I'll just bring some of that out into the river like that. And then we can bring a little bit of that into the reflective area into there, across to there. Now I want to put in a little bit of dark to suggest some form down the bank as we did on the other side, and let that come through as little channels into the grass as well. So you create a little height. You suggest that there is an elevation between the edge of the water through here, maybe like so, and then up and then across to the top of the field, so that it just spreads, but it gives you a little bit of form. What I haven't done, which I will do, is I will come in with a smaller brush, smaller round brush now, and I'll just put in a little bit of blue light just in and around our boats, give them some colour and some shape, because they aren't white, of course. They are a sort of a dull evening light. The light's almost off of them, so we're just going to put that in, put some shadow into that side there on this one, a little bit of light down the side of that canopy, darker in this side. There's a little bit more light getting to that. We're going to respect that reflection in the same way, just bring that down and let that come away. Like so. I'm going to do the same for these back here, but we're not putting half the detail in, just a little tap here into there like so. Just blend some of that out a little bit, a tap of water into it like so. Let that dry out, put a couple of the windows in, and on this one just the little band around it. Okay, having looked at this area before I finish that off, I really would like to build another colour in there. I just want to put a little warm, not warm, a little bit of deeper blue in there. So I'm going to take away all of this bottom panel of colour. We don't need any more of it, I don't think. Let's take that. I don't want it tainting the colours that I'm about to use. So let's put a fresh mix in and let's look at this. Now I'm going to be using some, not that colour, let's just remix that, got a little bit dirty. Now what I want to do now is mix some more cobalt, but to that I want to put some ultramarine blue. I'm looking at the colour and it is a lot more deeper ultramarine blue. There's a little tap of indigo into that. And I'm trying to see, am I daring enough to go with this? And put a little bit of magenta into that, just to give it that violet colour. And I want to be able. All of this is dry, so it should give me a nice wash. Just want to come in and just glaze over this area here and warm it up. Need to work fairly fast. It's not going to allow me too much before it causes me a problem. I'm just going to come in like so and glaze right the way up to some of this in here. In fact, I'm going to take it into there, just tap it back, and then I want to soften its edges too. I don't want it hard edged, so I'm going to come in and just play around with that a little bit like so. It is a glaze colour, but I think it supports the depth of light in the evening by adding this colour now. Just bringing it on over into some of these areas that are sort of slightly paler, and I think they will work because of it. I'm watching what I'm doing, just coming in and softening some of these marks out so that they are not heavy, and just gently dance across and add weight. That's the idea, taking this across here, adding a little bit of weight into there as it goes into the edges here. I'm sort of looking at it and thinking, do I, don't I, don't I, do I? It's one of those things that you could do it and it works beautifully, and I hope this is one of those occasions. You can do it and the whole painting is just a disaster. And it's just one of those. You just, you know, you got to do it and throw caution to the wind and hopefully you get it right. I'm going to bring that down into these lovely warm area down through here now, just to finish this off. And I'm going to just look at my edges one last time over here, just a gentle easing in, clean that off, to do the same thing on the reverse into this umber, these rubbly oranges. Just take that off and gently ease those two areas together. Finally, just down in the bottom area here, just gently tease them together. I'm glad I did that because it has given me this weight here which supports the cloud above. So you've got this light area here, you've got a lead in around through the boats and out again. So I think, and it also adds more weight through there. I could even attempt to bring some up through that. I'm not going to. I'm quite happy with the way that is. I'm going to leave that as is now. Just wanted this little glaze wash across here just to finish it. And to the final finish, as I say, was to do a little bit of area on those boats. So I'm just going to put in a little darker window in there and in there, and a little edge to the top of the boat like so. I hope that works. There's a couple of little windows way back there, on that one, on that one. And you got a sense of these reflecting. I'm going to make that a little darker, that window on there, a little bit darker than I'm showing. Give that a little bit more, a little bit more. And then they sort of come down and reflect into the water like so. but they're not as heavy as that, so let's just put them in and then let's just gently tease them out again. This is the last job. Take them in like so, just push them back out with a bit of water. I'm just going to put a signature down here. There we go. And that's it. Okay, everybody. Jobbed. I do hope you've got something from this. I do hope you've enjoyed it. And with that said and done, I hope you go off and maybe have a go at this. I will put the reference to this on my Patreon. It'll be free for you to download. You do not need to be a patron to download it. Just go along there and download it and enjoy it. Have a go yourself. And by all means, get in contact and show me the results. I'd love to see them. But in the meantime, I'm going to start thinking of doing another film, another tutorial for you. So with that in mind, I don't know what it's going to be, but have a go. As I say, happy painting. Stay safe, everybody. And enjoy yourselves, but as I say, stay safe. I'll catch you all in the next video. Take care now. Bye bye.